This was an 8.5 line. You could have bet 8.5 prior to the games being played, and you see it open 9.5, but actually came down to 8. So there are a lot of Irish fans, and why not? With their ATS record, they have only failed to cover 2 games this year. They're one of the best ATS teams to ever make it this far in the playoffs. But when I break down this game, to me, Notre Dame has to play the perfect game to win. Ohio State does not have to play the perfect game. That's immense pressure on Notre Dame and much less pressure on Ohio State. And let me break down some points for that. The Irish have played a weak schedule. It's number 60. It's one of the worst Power 5 schedules there are. But what they've done is had an elite defense. They have an elite pass rush defense. They have an elite pass coverage defense. And therefore, their rush defense has been excellent. Well, why does that correlate? Because no one plays more man-to-man coverage in the FBS or the Power 4 teams than Notre Dame do. They have the number 2 passer rating playing man-to-man. They're without one of their best cornerbacks, but they still have 4 cornerbacks that can cover. Well, when you play man-to-man, that means you have an extra safety, you have an extra linebacker, you do not need to play zone coverage, and therefore your rush defense is extremely good. I don't think the Irish are good enough to play man-to-man against Jeremiah Smith and Abuke and Carnell Tate and a great tight end and 2 very good running backs that both pass catch very well. When I also look at the Irish, they are number 1 in takeaways. They have been awesome on turnovers this season. And in fact, the only 2 games they did not win or tie the turnover battle was their upset loss against Northern Illinois, where they were -2 and lost that game. And they were -1 against Penn State. But when you look at points over turnover, they actually are on the plus side because of that boneheaded interception late in the game, which allowed Notre Dame to kick that field goal in the last second and win that game. When I look at the Irish's takeaways, you can be a good takeaway team because your cornerbacks are ball hawks, or you could be a good takeaway team because you force a lot of fumbles. But fumbles are really a 50-50 prop. When you have to turn the ball over, you can be an elite defense and get a lot of turnovers. But Penn State has had 16 fumble recoveries. When you have that many fumble recoveries, there's a lot of good fortune in your path to be able to get that. Ohio State was only +4 turnovers on the year. They were minus turnovers in 4 games, and they've won it all. So they can make a mistake and still rebound. They were minus turnovers against Penn State on the road. They won the game. They were -1 turnover against Tennessee. It did not fathom. They crushed them in that game. So when I look at the Ohio State offense versus the Irish defense, the numbers may say it's close, but to me, it's Ohio State. Look at Ohio State defense versus the Penn State offense. We know Riley Leonard's going to run the ball a lot. I'm going to have a prop for you about him in just 1 minute. We know they have 2 good running backs. But when Ohio State does not have to blitz, they have 2 NFL defensive ends. They have 3 NFL caliber players on their 4 D lines. They don't blitz very often, yet they had 51 sacks this year. That is number 3 in the country. When you have an Ohio State team that can only rush 4, what does that mean? Well, that means you're allowed to have a linebacker become a spy on Riley Leonard, which is going to have him make some decisions and not nearly run as much as he had. I like Ohio State. I lean with the under. But for best bets, I want to give you 2 props here. Sorry, Andy, if I'm stepping on your toes. But number 1 is Riley Leonard under 35.5 rush yards. Listen, he had a big game last game rushing the ball for 75 or 80 yards. But with that spy, I don't think he gets any big runs. And I think that's a great under. And the other, because the Irish play so much man-to-man and they're going to double Jeremiah Smith for sure. They're going to try to double Abuka. That's going to leave Carnell Tate wide open. Carnell Tate had a great game last time. Why? Because their last opponent tried to take those 2 wide receivers out of the passing game. Versus Texas and, versus Oregon and Tennessee, those 2 teams played zone. And what happened? Abuke and Smith had 23 receptions. The 4 games prior to that, where teams were playing more man-to-man, Carnell Tate had 20 receptions over 4 games. This over-under is only 3.5, and it's plus money. You're plus 124. So best bet, Riley Leonard under 35.5 rush yards, and Carnell Tate over 3.5 receptions at plus $120.
What do you have to promote for our clients?
Well, I had a 5% NFL teaser, which just came down because there's a line move. So take a look. I'm number 2 in profit the last 30 days. It's been an incredible run. I do have a college basketball 4% best bet up and available now. And I do want to sincerely thank everyone that was on board for my $5 5% winner last night on the Kentucky Wildcats. Again, it's been a great 6 weeks. Just looking to continue that stretch.